वेलकम बैक। 2000 के बाद से जब अफगानिस्तान में जंग शुरू हुई तो उसके बाद से बेतहाशा कॉन्फ्रेंसेस हुई, बॉन, पेरिस, हेग और फिर लंदन में इस साल के शुरू में। लेकिन आज पहली दफ़ा काबुल में इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी ने बैठ के अफगानिस्तान के मसाइल का हल तलाश करने की कोशिश की और उसमें एक बात सामने आई कि अफगानिस्तान में पीस और स्टेबिलिटी के लिए उसके हमसायों का एक अहम किरदार है। जब यूएस अंडर सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट फॉर डिफेंस मिशेल फ्लॉर्नी पाकिस्तान के दौरे पे आई थीं तो मैंने उनसे एक सवाल किया कि आपके पास ऐसी कौन सी जादू की छड़ी है कि 9 साल में तो रीजनल स्टेबिलिटी नहीं आ सकी और अब आप वहाँ पे रीजनल स्टेबिलिटी ले आएंगी, और इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स और इंडियन डिफेंस फोर्सेस का अफगानिस्तान में क्या रोल होगा। तो उन्होंने ये जवाब दिया। इन टर्म्स ऑफ अफगानिस्तान वी सी दैट द टर्म रीजनल स्ट्रैटेजी इज फ्लाउटेड अ लॉट, but over the last almost 9 years we have seen that this regional strategy has not yielded any results. What magic wand do you have that you can try to balance the regional state interest on the Afghan chessboard?
There's no magic wand for Afghanistan, but what we have for the first time in 8 or 9 years is a strategy, a real strategy for success with clearly defined objectives and a way forward. We have new leadership on the international side, and for the first time ever, we've actually fully resourced the mission. So I think this is really the first time that we've had a good shot at success, and I am cautiously optimistic that the counterinsurgency strategy will work and will create the basis for some kind of stable political end state in Afghanistan.
And what kind of role do you envision for Indian forces and Indian contractors in Afghanistan?
Well, I think it's not for the United States to envision a role there. I think certainly India has made contributions on the development side. I don't think there's any thought of Indian forces being in Afghanistan. I've certainly not heard of that. I think it's very important for Afghanistan to emerge from this with strong relationships with all of the countries of the region, and most particularly Pakistan, given the long border that you share.
जोग्राफियाई हिसाब से अफगानिस्तान के हमसाया ममालिक जिसमें चाइना, रशिया, ईरान, इंडिया और पाकिस्तान शामिल हैं, उनके हिस्टोरिकली अफगानिस्तान में स्टेक्स रहे हैं और हिस्टोरियंस कहते हैं कि अफगानिस्तान एक शतरंज की बाजी है। साल के शुरू में मैंने नॉर्वेजियन फॉरेन मिनिस्टर से यही सवाल किया कि क्या अफगानिस्तान एक शतरंज की बाजी है और ये कैसे पॉसिबल है कि अफगानिस्तान के हमसाया ममालिक जो 9 साल से अपने रीजनल इंटरेस्ट को बैलेंस नहीं कर सके, वो एक टेबल पर बैठकर अफगानिस्तान में पीस और स्टेबिलिटी ला सकते हैं। तो नॉर्वेजियन फॉरेन मिनिस्टर का ये कहना था। Some of the senior diplomats who deal with Afghanistan, they believe that a regional game, and in fact Great Game Part 3 is being played out. Do you subscribe to that point of view?
Well, will you elaborate a bit? What do you mean by that?
It's the great powers which are playing, and Afghanistan is just a political chessboard for the great powers there.
Well, it can't be. That's how Afghanistan has been a victim for centuries. It cannot be this time. I think it's perfectly legitimate for Pakistan to have concerns about the future of its neighbor, if you look at the recent history. But the solution and the drive for something which is going to be owned by Afghanis has to be Afghanistan itself. But without having a much more elaborated pattern and scheme for regional cooperation, there can be no stability, in my view. You cannot compare regions in the world with each other in detail, but in any region where you have stability, you normally have a quite elaborated institutional and political setup for dealing with common issues. And I'm struck by the fact that in this region, those schemes are sorely lacking.
It's not only Pakistan, there are also the interests of India, Iran, China, Russia itself. How these regional interests can be balanced on the Afghan chessboard?
Well, they have to come together.
We have seen since 2001 it has not taken place.
No,
what kind of hope we can have that?
And that has to change. So I think, one thing which has been negative about the foreign military presence which we have been part of, is that it has given an impression that these are issues which are going to be dealt with and settled by those nations. I think we make an important contribution, because without that military presence, I think instability would have simply boiled over. But we cannot be the major game players in arranging this. I think we can contribute. I think we are invited to contribute. I think we are following up on the Security Council unanimous resolution. But lasting solutions have to be found inside Afghanistan and with Afghanistan's neighbors.
बॉन कॉन्फ्रेंस से लेकर काबुल कॉन्फ्रेंस तक अफगानिस्तान के मसले का हल तलाश करने के लिए इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी डिफरेंट फोरम्स पर बैठती रही है। अफगानिस्तान में यूनाइटेड नेशंस के फॉर्मर चीफ कैएडा आजकल नॉर्वे में अपनी एक नई डिप्लोमेटिक असाइनमेंट का इंतज़ार कर रहे हैं। जब मैंने उनसे इंटरव्यू किया तो उनसे ये सवाल किया कि क्या अफगानिस्तान के चेस बोर्ड पर रीजनल इंटरेस्ट को बैलेंस किया जा सकता है, तो उन्होंने ये जवाब दिया।
Afghanistan has become a chessboard where a lot many international players are there, regional players are there. How these regional interests and international interests are to be reconciled on the Afghan chessboard?
I think there have been many attempts now by the international community to get together in Paris, in The Hague, in London, in Kabul later this year, to bring the entire international community around one set of priorities. And I do believe that the regional players here have a tremendous role to play, underestimated to some extent by many. I'm not only here talking about political interests, economic interests that have to be pursued. Afghanistan could certainly play an important role in a wider regional trade arrangement. I think also to have conclusion of the transit trade agreement between Afghanistan and Pakistan would be an important part of that. Further assistance from the countries in neighboring countries of Central Asia, I believe, could stimulate the Afghan society expertise, for instance, in agriculture and other parts of the what are today the priority lists. I believe would be more important than to have experts coming from far apart. Coming from far away from Afghanistan. If you look at an expert in agriculture from Tajikistan, for instance, he will probably know much more about the climate, about the soil, about the culture, about the language, etc., than an expert coming from the United States or Great Britain. He will also be able to stay there for a longer time and probably need less security. It will be cheaper, make more sense. Why don't we make more use of that opportunity? This is just one little example, and there are so many other examples where the region could play much more overall.
We have been seeing such kind of pledges since the Bonn conference on Afghanistan. Every time these commitments are made and all these good intention plans are made, but once it comes to implementation, unless there is peace on the ground and the insurgency is taken care of and regional interests are balanced, nothing is possible on that count. So why have such shows from the Kabul conference?
I disagree. I believe that you can do a lot in areas of the country that are stable or reasonably stable, that would seriously stimulate the economy, not only of that part of the country, but would also gradually stimulate the entire country. And I believe also that a state building or nation building, institution building program can be developed even in the present situation where conflict is raging in significant parts of the country. But you know, we had in the beginning a national program in health, a national program in education, a national program called the National Solidarity Program, the building up the villages based on the priorities of the local citizens. But since those programs, no national program has been developed in Afghanistan. Years have passed without a serious nationwide civilian program. We've lost years here, and we have to try to catch up. It's very difficult when the conflict is raging.
Sakara, during your stay in Afghanistan and while you were traveling in the regional countries and meeting with other special representatives of United States and Britain, did you ever hear the word Great Game Part 3?
No, I did not. I never saw it that way.
आपने इंटरनेशनल पॉलिसी मेकर्स की बातें सुनी कि अफगानिस्तान में ग्रेट गेम किस तरह से खेला जा रहा है और रीजनल इंटरेस्ट क्या-क्या हैं। एक वक्फे के बाद हम आपको बताएंगे कि अफगानिस्तान में जंग का कारोबार जो जारी है, इससे कौन से ममालिक फ़ायदा उठा रहे हैं। एक वक्फे के बाद।